All right, hey Jay, I don't need that electric stuff. What are you kidding me? I don't want anybody to know I'm driving an EV. What do you say to them?
I mean, I tell them how I use it, and I'm a car guy, deep down have been forever. So for me, it's powerful as can be. It's quiet, it's smooth, the suspension is great, the storage is awesome. For what I use it for is just, I can't imagine not having one at this point.
If you didn't have your truck today and it wasn't available, Mike, what truck would you buy or what vehicle would you buy?
Oh, that's a good question. I think in the EV space, my opinion is there's nothing really that kind of competes with F-150 right now. So I probably would still be in the EcoBoost range like I was my old F-150.
So you don't have power down here.
We do not.
But you really do.
We do. So we actually had an air fryer plugged into the Pro Power in the back.
That's great.
And made chicken nuggets for the kids. And it really has solved a lot of the issues that I had prior to this, coming from a Chevy Tahoe that really it had onboard power, but it wasn't enough to do anything.
I work in outside sales. We do events all the time in parking lots and places like this where there's no access to power. I need grills, I need music, I need PA systems. I power it all right out of this back. Got an extension cord reel back here, plug it in, park the truck 100 feet away, roll the power cord out. Now I have full mobile power anywhere I go. I can run a PA system for 6 hours with everything off, all the climate control off inside, and I lose about 1% of the battery.
Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where today I find myself in Winstead, Connecticut, on a lake called the Highland. So not to be confused with the Tesla Model 3 Highland, look at this beautiful lake over here. This is a powerboat lake, but why am I here today? Well, my two buddies, Mike, who you may remember from a previous video, and his buddy Jay, both have F-150 Lightnings, both 2022s, both Lariats, spec'd exactly the same. And of course, for all those who know, I picked up this Platinum here this week as a press car, my first press car. I'm really excited about it. And I thought what I would do is run to the experts, to Mike and to Jay, and ask them some questions today. What do they like about their truck? What don't they like about their truck? What do they wish their truck had, right? Because these are the guys that drive it every day, and I'm just getting familiar with it. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot about these trucks from people who actually drive them. Not somebody trying to sell you one, and not someone who thinks they know about them like me. These are people who use them every single day. So let's get into it, and thanks again for watching. All right, so everyone, here I am again at the lake house. I don't think I'm leaving. I really don't. Some of you may remember my buddy Mike Gilbert. He had one of the highest watched videos for a long time there on his F-150. We did a Your EV journey with them. And then we've also got his buddy Jay Giordano over here. So what I'm going to be doing is asking each one of them to really just tell me about their trucks, their experience, and what they like about them, and we'll see where it goes. No super strong format, you know me, but this should be a really good time to learn a little bit about each one of their experiences, their buying, purchase, the process for the buying, and then also how they're actually living with the trucks. I'm psyched to see these guys. They don't realize it, but I'm not going home. I'm staying here, right? The lake house, I'm not leaving. So Mike, it's great to see you. I know we've been talking a lot in between the videos and all that, but thanks again for having me up to the lake house. This is absolutely spectacular, but we're here to talk F-150 Lightning.
Of course, great to be back, Dave. Appreciate it. So I'm just over about 13, 14 months after owning this truck. And as some of you might remember, I came from the gas equivalent, a 2017 EcoBoost F-150. My first entry into electric vehicles at all. I had been looking at them for quite some time, really interested in them, but I was in a truck and I didn't really have the budget to be able to get two cars or the room for two cars. And as soon as the F-150 Lightning, or really electric trucks in general, came out, I was really starting to dig into them and look at them for one specific reason. I was always caught in between an SUV and a truck, right? I like the truck for the utility and the bed, but you lose the trunk, you lose that inside secure weather storage. Things roll around all over the place. And then we get the frunks, so I was looking at Rivian, I was looking at that. And what I really liked about the F-150 Lightning was it looked just like a truck, right? If I pass 50 people on a street driving this, maybe one of the people knows it's an electric truck and catches the attention. So I liked kind of that covert look of it. So far, I can say just really broad strokes, This is better in just about every use case for me, with very limited exceptions, than the gas counterpart. It rides better, it's quiet, it rides like a car versus a truck. It's comfortable. I got the frunk, I got the utility, I got Pro Power on board. The only downsides I've really come across, long distance towing. I do really little of that, and most people that drive trucks don't do a ton of that. But if you're doing long distance towing, probably not the best use case. And sometimes, you know, as we talked about in the last video, it's really not the range anxiety that's gotten me, it's the infrastructure anxiety, right? That charger anxiety of, is it gonna be full? Are they gonna be operable? Are you gonna get full power? You know, because I'm driving a little over 20,000 miles a year all over the Northeast, and really easy in the summer, gets a little bit more challenging in the winter. But overall, I can't say enough about it. I've enjoyed the experience. You know, of course, there's a few small things that, you know, I'd like to tweak, or some of that software.
Oh, absolutely.
Stuff that could be
And
better.
by the way, I want to hear about them.
Yeah.
I want to hear about them. So the announcement with Farley joining NACS, you must have been psyched to hear that, right?
Oh, I mean, that's, it's really interesting. When they first announced the North American charging standard, as Tesla did before it was really a standard, I remember watching you and Kyle kind of debate whether it was too late or whatnot. And I think the consensus was it took one major OEM to sway it. Ford jumped on board first, and then the dominoes started to fall. So I definitely am excited about that. I have had a couple experiences with the Magic Dock charging. You know, as I drive up to New York, it's a pretty helpful charging stop in Verona, New York, where I think you were once when it first came out, up at Turning Stone. That's been a great charger station. So I'm interested to see. The only concern I have is I know it's going to be an adapter for our trucks, and coming in 25, they'll start to equip it with the NACS. But my question is it going to be long enough to reach it, right? You know, do I have to block 2 stalls?
Yeah.
So more to be seen, but really excited for the announcement.
Right. Tell me just a little bit about your profession, not so much what you do for a living,
Yeah.
but you know, one of the things I find fascinating is that your truck is really your office, right? You live in this truck, and you're always going and on the road pretty much, and you drive a lot. Maybe that's changed since the last time, but you don't just sit around. You've got a lot of miles on this truck, don't you?
Yeah, like a little over 23,000 miles, about 21,000 miles in the first year. I'm in outside sales for beverage alcohol. So my territory ranges from Cape May, New Jersey, all the way up to Maine. So, you know, it's common for me to go to Buffalo 2 or 3 times a year. It's common for me to be in Boston and out into the Cape and down to Cape May, New Jersey, places where I need to charge just to get to, and being on the road a lot. I'd say one of the things that has been really kind of a cool benefit of an electric vehicle, does take a little bit more work up front. But now almost all the hotel apps let you sort for places by free EV charging or EV charging.
Right.
So I found my few spots that I go to when I travel outside, charge up at home, get to the hotel, plug up overnight. It's just like I'm at home.
And Mike, I want to thank you for letting me borrow your adapter, because I am going to use the Pro Power on board to charge either my Tesla or my Lucid. I want to check that out. But you come prepared with lots of adapters in your frunk, where you've got the one where recently when I was driving my Lucid back from Colorado, I looked for one of those hotels that had the charging. And of course I pull up, and what is it? It's a Tesla wall box, and I couldn't plug that into my J1772 because Kyle took my J adapter years ago. So I know you've got that, you're prepared, you've got all the tools to be able to do it. So that's good stuff. All right. Well, listen, we're going to get into it, but I want to meet your buddy Jay and hear his story, and then we'll accelerate this video. So good talking to you, Mike. Great seeing you again.
Appreciate it.
All right, so Jay, thank you so much for having me up to the lake house. I know this is your property.
That's correct.
What an amazing spot you have. Your house is across the street,
Yep.
But you were telling me this is like deeded, you own it, and you can actually have picnic tables down here, and you got your boat there. So hats off to you, man. You're living the American dream. And speaking of the American dream, F-150, right? You've rounded out the equation, lake house and an F-150. Tell me about this. When did you get the truck?
So I got the truck in October 2022. It's a 2022 model. I have about 11,000 miles on it so far. My use case is definitely very different than Mike's. You know, I really am primarily in a 30-mile loop. You know, I'm not going long distances very often. I have taken it to Boston, I've taken it to New York. We took it to Stratton to go skiing over the winter. But for the most part, you know, it's a kid mobile. I bring my 2 kids back and forth to daycare, to school, to activities, and then I use it for up here. So like you said, this property right here doesn't have any power, so I actually use this as kind of my home base. You know, it really has solved a lot of the issues that I had prior to this, coming from a Chevy Tahoe that, you know, really it had onboard power, but it wasn't enough to do anything. You know, I use it to fill up the tubes. I use it to, you know, power lights if we need it down here, if we're down here at night. So, you know, it really has become a tool for me. I also use it to tow the boat back and forth to storage every year.
Oh, wow. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
Not long distance towing,
No,
right?
it's about 30 miles each way.
Okay.
But it is a 5,000 pound pontoon boat that is big and bulky. It's like, you know, towing a big square. And honestly, it's never been an issue for me. It tows phenomenally well. You know, I don't have any lack for power. It's quiet, it's smooth. It really is a great tow vehicle. Again, everybody knows the pitfalls of trying to tow long distances, but for me, in my use case, that doesn't really ever come into play.
Right. Now, when you tow, how easy it is to hook up to the trailer with this rig?
So it actually has a backup trailer assist, which I haven't even ended up using yet. For the limited amount, you know, a couple times a year that I tow, I really haven't gone down that line, but it is nice. There's a one-touch button on the main screen that will put a camera onto the back so you can see the boat while you're towing it, or whatever you're towing for that matter. You can see what's in your bed if there's stuff there. So it really ends up being a nice tool to have.
Right, that's good. And is this your first EV?
It is my first EV and my first pickup truck.
Wow.
I always wanted a pickup truck, especially having this property in our house, you know, using it for whatever you need a pickup truck for. My big concern was, I'm a big golfer, and in the summertime, I always have my golf clubs with me.
Right.
And I didn't like the idea of them just being in the bed, rolling around, not being weatherproof, not being secure. So the frunk is really what sold me on it, to be honest with you. So I can put my golf clubs up front, they're locked, they're dry, and they can be with me all the time. So
That's
that was
awesome.
really my main reason.
Oh, that's good. I like
Because,
that.
you know, again, I have 2 little kids, so my back seat is filled with car seats. I can't fold it up. I don't have excess room back there. So
Right.
this solved that problem.
And what's the family's other ride? What other car do you have?
2023 Porsche Cayenne.
A
is
Cayenne.
my wife's
Okay.
car. Yep.
So when the kids are saying, let's go for a ride, which is their car of choice?
They like this one much better.
Really?
Yeah, Daddy's truck.
That's
for sure.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I just met your 2 little girls. They're so awesome, so cute. All right, good. Well, now let's have some fun. I'm going to bring Mike back into this, and I've got some questions for you guys.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. So, Mike, I have a question for you. If, let's just say, your truck got stolen, I understand you're going to buy another F-150. The question is, which trim level would you get?
Yeah, listen, I think that's an interesting question, because I went back and forth, and we talked about this, right, when we were in the reservation process of it, or the order process of it, is, you know, we ended up with the extended range Lariat battery versus the Platinum were the 2 choices, right? And we ultimately ended up with the Lariat. I think short answer is I stick with Lariat. I think it's the best equipped for the money at just over $80,000, I believe is where it is now. But when you jump to the Platinum, you know, there was a couple things, right? You go from the 20-inch wheels to the 21-inch wheels with no ability to sub them out. So take it or leave it. I really wanted the 20s. You definitely get an upgraded interior, which I really, really wanted, but it was a tough pill to swallow for an extra, I think, $14,000 or whatever it was.
Something like that, yeah.
That's tough for the interior. So with the limited options, and then some cosmetic stuff, right? With the gloss versus the matte black grille, kind of the same difference. 6 or 1/2 dozen another. So in my opinion, I think the best bang for the buck overall is the Lariat extended range battery.
With the max tow.
With the max tow for the
Yeah.
extra cooling,
Yeah.
which is definitely useful. So
I mean,
think
the
that's
only thing I would potentially consider, just because of the looks of it, is the new Platinum Black. I mean, that to me it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Is it worth 20 grand more over these? Probably not, unless you really, you know, want that look.
if you want
and
customized
those options.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
Dave said it in his reveal of it, right? Like, if you're gonna wrap your car
Yeah.
and you're looking at that, I did like the wheels a lot better on the
Yeah.
black. And I did like that matte black wrap, which I thought was pretty cool. The fact that it was 3-year, 36,000 miles warranted from Ford. You don't get that anywhere. So the difference between where the base Platinum starts and where the black is a no-brainer.
Right.
If you're in Platinum, you should be looking black
But you
all
need
day
to
long.
make the decision: are you going to go from an $80,000 Lariat to a, you know, starting price in the low 90s on a Platinum, and then add that on? It's
a big jump.
It's a big jump.
Big jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I have is, are F-150 Lightnings selling or not? Jay, what are your thoughts on this?
So I have a really good golf buddy of mine who owns a local dealership here, and he said they're having a hard time selling them. They have a few sitting on the lot. There just isn't the demand there. I don't know if it's price, if it's interest rate driven. I'm not exactly sure. He didn't really have an answer as to why, but they're having a hard time getting rid of them.
Yeah, I think personally, I think it stems from the excitement that got built out, right? They shut down the reservation bank at 250,000 reservations or something like that. But if you listen to, and I watched every second of the Lightning kickoff right back, I think it was like May 19, and they walked through all of the different options that would be available, what it would do, right? The whole thing, and then it said, and it all starts under $40,000.
Yeah.
The reality is the Pro did, you couldn't get it. It didn't have any of those options. And even still to this point, whether it's the Platinum or that, you know, the charging your home requires like $10,000 in additional equipment.
Right, I mean, that was one of their huge selling points was, you know, you can power your whole house. You don't need a generator if you lose power. What they didn't really tell you is, yeah, you had to wire your house up with $10,000 worth of equipment to get that reverse charge.
Yeah, and you think about where it went, right? From $40,000 to $90,000, $100,000, $92,000, whatever it was. The bulk of what they were filling was at the $80,000 plus. So you got to think two things happen, right? One, now you're narrowing your pool substantially, the people that are going to buy an $80,000 plus truck, right? And new technology at that. You know, then you think about just the other demands of they took a price increase, right? The optics on taking a price increase while interest rates are raising, access to money is becoming harder. It's like, you know, and I don't know how much, you know, the $80,000 buyer suffers from it, but the changing on the cap and the thresholds for the incentive, even for the $7,500, I got it, you got it.
I got it, yeah. But I mean, even try to find just a regular XLT, you know, somewhere in that $50,000, $60,000 range that competes with like gas vehicles, they're just not out there. I think the ones that are actually sitting on the lots are more of the higher trim levels. I think if they were XLTs or Pros, I think they would probably be bought up pretty quickly, but 90,000, 80,000, it's hard. You're limiting your buyer pool.
Yeah, for sure. I don't really worry about my golf clubs in the front. I leave them right back here. But I think one of the most useful features that this has over any other vehicle on the market right now is its Pro Power onboard setup and the extent of what it actually powers out. So back here in the bed, we have a couple different things. We have first a 240 volt 30 amp outlet, of which it comes with an adapter to allow you to plug into a NEMA 1450 for those traditional, you know, kind of chargers and mobile chargers. Pair right to it. Or if you have a camper, you can power your camper right through there, which is pretty awesome. And then 4 120 volt outlets as well. This is come in handy, right? Jay talked about powering the air fryer for the chicken nuggets for the kids. And then we also, with that 240 volt, I've also been able to do some really exciting stuff, like charge an electric plane on 2 Guinness Book World Record flights from Hartford to Pennsylvania. You covered it a little bit too on their flight out, but just the amount of things that this has been able to get me access to and have me be a part of has been a really cool experience.
So this is the frunk setup here, and basically, you know, where I've used it, we love to ski. So the final day of ski season in Connecticut, Ski Sundown over here basically does a pond skimming contest, and it ended up being a really beautiful day. So we decided to tailgate in the parking lot, and in our use case, it was frunk gate in the parking lot. So we had an Instant Pot, we had a slow cooker all hooked up in here. We're able to keep the food going, music going all day. And again, like Mike, I only ended up using 1% state of charge for the 3.5 hours or so that everything was being run off of here. Really, if you want to get into real tailgating, this can actually be used as a cooler. It's not insulated, but it's got a drain at the bottom, so you could throw this full of ice, and you know, it'll drain out after the end of the day. I usually just use it for a little overflow storage, so extra golf balls, a first aid kit, some golf towels is really my use case for this area. Other than storage of, typically my golf clubs are in here, so.
All right, so this is the fun part of the video where I'm going to ask my two friends Mike and Jay what they like, what they don't like, maybe some of the things that they think should be improved on the truck. So I'm going to hand the mics over to you guys, and look at you hanging out there. You know what's missing here? Jay, where are the beers?
I actually just
It's a
said
great
that to my
question.
wife
Yeah,
when
we
she
need
was
some
walking by.
beers.
I said, we need some beers.
I mean, the cars are parked. We're not driving, so,
Nope.
you know. But anyway, yeah, kick it off, guys. Just free form. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
We'll start.
Sure.
What jumps out to you?
I mean, from, again, my use case, honestly, I couldn't imagine not having an EV moving forward, really. I mean, it solves all the needs that I have, and, you know, I think that it works pretty perfectly for my use case. I mean, I charge 99.9% at home, so I'm always ready to go. And, you know, the cost is less than it was in my Tahoe equivalent. And to me, I think that it's, you know, I can't imagine not owning an EV moving forward.
Yeah, listen, I think that's definitely a good part of it, you know, is to me, you know, the electric vehicles and the, you know, the traditional electric vehicles like Teslas and Rivians and the startups versus now OEMs getting big into it. The one thing I don't think the OEMs have really figured out yet is just the level of tech data and more information that EV drivers are looking for, right? I spent a lot of time in that car, being able to take a look at more efficiency data, right? Like one of the simplest things to me that drives me nuts is the 1 decimal place, right? We get 2.4.
Right. Yeah, is it 2.41 or is it 2.49?
Right, in that big thing, but the EPA range is 2.44.
Right.
But you
So
never
I
really
don't-
know.
why don't we
Yeah,
know
so that bothers me a little bit. And, you know, the big gripe is that the toughest transition to me was learning to adjust from miles of range to percentage.
Right.
And once you figure out percentage, it's all you want to see. But this thing prioritizes distance to empty in almost every screen, with except for that, what is they call it, the comfort screen.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's still on there.
On the comfort screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Distance to empty, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It took me a while to figure out, you know, to really transition my brain away from traditional ICE vehicle of you have 200 miles till empty, to really looking at my state of charge and what my efficiency is on every trip to kind of get a better idea of what the real true use case will be.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest shortcomings, I think, in the delivery process, at least for us when we first took delivery so early from a major manufacturer, is we knew more just in the research that we did than the sales
Very true.
representatives
Yeah.
did, right? Like, you know, we were educating them on it. So that delivery experience of just how to set your mind, like I see it in the comment threads all the time, right? This is one of my favorite, is you get you know, I charged up to 70% last night and I woke up and I lost 48 miles of range. It's like, well, what was your percent state of charge, right? Like understanding how those two play together, and just like that education is we're trying to go from, you know, that niche audience of EV enthusiasts to that broad scale adoption of everybody should be driving electric vehicles, or electric vehicles are the future. You know, that education gap is still a little bit big.
For sure. I mean, I know that anytime anyone asks me about my truck, the first question they ask, how far can you go?
How far
How
can
much
you-
range
right.
do you
That's
get?
all people wanna know.
That's all
Yeah.
they want to know. And I always tell them, you know, 320 miles roughly, if, you know, your best case scenario, best temperature, all of that. But in reality, from my standpoint, I mean, I have 2 little kids. I'm not making it 300 miles without them having to stop
Yeah.
and, you know, get food and stretch their legs, and I'll take that time to charge and we get back on the road. If that was what we needed to do.
Or just how to use it, right? Like in the winter, because I drove a lot in the winter, and you do see. I think I'm a nerd, as people might remember. You know, I track every kilowatt that goes into it. I saw probably about a 25% reduction in range.
I'd say that's about
during the winter, but it could have been a 50% reduction if I had cold soaked the battery overnight, if I'm stopping and leaving it there, you know, versus preconditioning it, leaving it plugged in as much as it can. And there were a few alerts, right, that said, you know, hey, leave it plugged in, but just that education of how the computer senses it. And you saw, right, Ford changed that algorithm in the middle of the winter because
Yeah.
people were freaking out
Yeah.
about how little range they had, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you didn't really lose it if you preconditioned it, drove, hopped into a DC fast charger, drove to the next one, you were cool. It's the second that battery got cold, that's when the range got killed. So just the education that needs to come along with it. And, you know, I said, you know, anytime I have a chance to say to somebody who is in the business or has anything to do with EVs, is they really should live in a Tesla, right? Like somebody making decisions for these major OEMs should live with the Tesla because the things that they do are really software first,
Right.
not vehicle first.
Right,
OEMs
and
are
that's
vehicle
where
first.
these are definitely vehicle first, and they built a great vehicle for
great
sure.
vehicle, yeah.
But their technology is lacking. Their
Yeah.
software, the speed of it. I'm hoping that with all the over-the-air updates, it's going to continually get better and better. And I like the fact that they've taken customer feedback and updated things. Like, when we first got our trucks, the HVAC controls, you had to hit the plus button or the minus button to get it to go up and down.
Yeah.
And you're trying to drive while doing that and bouncing all over the place. And now the software update comes through, you click it once, and now you just use the knob in the middle
yeah.
to change that. That feedback is wonderful in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Mike, tell me a little bit about both of you, Jay and Mike, the wish list that you have. Like, what are the things that I hear that Blue Cruise 1.2 is coming out, and,
Yep.
and today when I was using Blue Cruise, I tried to do a lane change, and it didn't work, right? So
Coming soon.
Well, I'm like, okay, soon, right? But like, what are some of the things that you guys both are looking forward to in an OTA?
Yeah, I mean, I think Blue Cruise 1.2, especially for my use case, maybe more so than Jay's.
Yeah, not mine.
Is I do a lot of highway driving, and you lock in, you're good, you're just sitting here, and then all of a sudden a slower car comes, you want to go around, you got to put the turn signal on, it goes out of it, it has to readapt. Having that automatic lane change is definitely something I'm looking forward to. And quite honestly, I think the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is just more information, right? When Ford launched that, I forget what they call it, but you can send your voice feedback directly to people in there. I wore that thing out the first, you're driving down the highway, it should do this. Why doesn't it have watt hours per mile? Why doesn't it have an extra decimal point? How come I can't just press the distance to empty and flip between percent like a Tesla can? So I think really it should almost be the core audience is your traditional internal combustion engine crew and then your EV enthusiast. And how do you blend those two together to give both people what they want? They started to do it with that comfort screen, but it's just more data, right? Like, I think the average people and probably a lot of your viewers, they're on that, geekier side of, they want all that information. They want to know it. The traditional people, maybe not so much. So that to me is going to be the paradigm shift of like, when do those blend and how does it go? But for me, give me everything and let me sort it out, or bury it deep in the settings.
Yeah.
Right? Jay, what about for you? Or is there anything that you wish the truck had that it doesn't right now, or is it pretty much doing all you need?
Honestly, it does everything I need it to do, really. I mean,
all right, Ford, your job is done, Ford.
Yeah, Ford, you're done.
Find more of him.
Yeah, Jim Farley, you listening to this? No, I mean, I think, having better infrastructure from a charging standpoint around here, I mean, we have nothing. We're 25 minutes to Torrington, and that's the only fast charger anywhere remotely close to here.
Fast is a loose term with that.
Right.
62 kilowatts.
Right. Well, comparatively, yeah. But I mean, that is, and I think one of the things I watched, Jim Farley's road trip when he took the Lightning and kind of did his nationwide tour or whatever you want to call it. I think he really quickly realized that is the biggest hurdle I think that we have right now, because the truck itself, other than some, random software quirks here and there, last week I went to close my frunk and it stopped halfway. I don't know why, and then I had to open it again and then it closed the next time. Yep. But the truck itself, I think the build quality is great. It does everything that I want it to do, but the lack of kind of feeling trapped in a way because of the range anxiety, because of the public infrastructure. I think that is really going to bring us to the next level.
So one of the things I saw Jim tweeted out was the terminology. He's realizing it's not range anxiety, it's charger anxiety. Yeah. And we've been saying that for years. I think Kyle was one of the first ones out there to say batteries should be smaller, lighter, so that the trucks have better range and efficiency, but the infrastructure should be there. So look, I think that, what are your thoughts about the new Silverado, Mike, coming out with a 200 plus, kilowatt hour battery pack? And I mean, it's not going to be cheap, but they're going in that, the other direction, a bigger is better and all of that. Whereas I think what Ford is doing is they're partnering with NACS now, with Tesla, and playing nice to be able to give clients like you, the better charging experience and more chargers out there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? I think it comes down to, what's the long-term solution and what's best right now, right? They got to find a solution to sell Silverados tomorrow, and infrastructure isn't a tomorrow solve for. So I think in the short term, the bigger battery probably appeals to the audience that they're trying to sell to by putting that more stated range, trying to play that, gasoline game a little bit. But long term, I think it will absolutely, infrastructure will win out, because nobody knows what the range is on a gas car when gas stations take 3 minutes and they're everywhere around. I will say, so I drove my gas truck out from Connecticut to Montana, right? It was like 2,700 miles drive, right? And I learned really quickly what the swing point would be where it would no longer be a contest between EVs and gas cars. And to me, I was finding myself with a 36-gallon extended range tank. I was stopping 3 times for every time I needed to gas up on that long drive, because I needed to stretch my legs. I needed to go to the bathroom. I'm firing down coffee. I want some snacks. And the second that we can go 50 to 100 miles along any major interstate and recoup at least that much energy in 10 minutes, it will no longer be a question.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I mean, even like you said, when you drove your truck out there at that time before Ford made the deal with Teslas, you couldn't have done it. Physically could not have done it. And now with that partnership, you're going to be able to do that if you wanted to.
Yeah, and infrastructure slowly building, right? Like there was one pitfall in Wyoming that EA just opened up a station. So with a slow hour-and-a-half charge, I technically could make it to Montana, but it's not easy. Once you get there, there's not much.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, guys. I'm sort of running out of questions. If you didn't have your truck today and it wasn't available, Mike, what truck would you buy, or what vehicle would you buy?
Oh, that's a good question. I think in the EV space, my opinion is there's nothing really that kind of competes with F-150 right now. So I probably would still be in the EcoBoost range like I was my old F-150. Maybe one of those 3.0 diesels, some of that, but.
So the Rivian doesn't get your money?
No, you know what we went to the New York Auto Show, and it was the first time we really got to get hands-on with the Rivian.
It's too small.
It's smaller. The bed's like that polymer, the plastic, it just doesn't feel, it feels like truck meets everyday kind of convenience.
Yeah.
This feels like a truck.
It is a truck. You know?
And Jay, what about you?
I'd probably have another large SUV again, would be my guess. I mean, whether that be a new Tahoe or a Yukon Denali, something like that. If I didn't have this, if you said you had to buy a truck, it probably would be, some kind of gas, either the Chevy with their Duramax, what is it, 3 liter?
Yep.
Either something like that or the Ford EcoBoost. It'd be one of those two.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just curious, if you were to run into an F-150 owner, gas, diesel, I don't know, do they make diesel F-150s? I don't think so,
not
right?
in the F-150.
That's like the 250s and the 350s, right? And the Super Duties they do. But if you were to run into an F-150, just a gas owner, and they say, well, why should I switch? I mean, I have my truck now. Why should I switch? What would be your reasons, Mike, to let someone know?
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of ways to unpack. To me, it comes down to use case. Is the biggest knocks we see on the Lightning are all like the less than 1% use cases. The reality is most people that drive trucks are personal homeowners that do a few things with the bed, nothing commercial. To me, it's kind of like what I said in the intro, right? It's better in every way. It rides better, it's smoother, it's less expensive. You never have to go to a gas station. You fill it up at home all the time with your electricity. It's just a better solution for 99% of the population out there. It's a better solution.
Right. Yeah. The independent rear suspension really makes a big
huge
difference, right?
Game changer.
It is a big game changer. Yeah. And Jay, what about it? All right, hey Jay, I don't need that electric stuff. What are you kidding me? I don't want anybody to know I'm driving an EV. What do you say to them?
I mean, I tell them how I use it, and I'm a car guy. Deep down, have been forever. So for me, it's powerful as can be. It's quiet. It's smooth. The suspension is great. The storage is awesome. For what I use it for is just, I can't imagine not having one at this point.
I think it's like what we talk about, right? It's like our two use cases really different.
Polar opposite.
You're a car guy. I'm a tech guy.
Yeah.
Here we are. We found the same vehicle for different reasons, but still check both the boxes, which I think is pretty cool.
I know you asked this question, what was one of the knocks on it? And I was having a hard time actually coming up with something that I was truly unhappy with. And I tell you what it is. turning radius.
Oh yeah, well
The
that's
turning-
an F-150 thing. It's
It is
atrocious.
I could park my Tahoe in basically anywhere.
Rear wheel steer.
Rear steer.
Yeah, I mean this thing I have to make a 5-point turn to get
Yeah.
in a small parking space.
Yeah, turning radius.
That is my one knock on
Yep.
it, I would say.
Agreed.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate all this input. It's invaluable from my perspective because it's you guys. You guys are using this truck, so thanks very much for all the input.
Our pleasure.
You're very welcome.
Thanks a lot.